morning to everyone and welcome back to Policing with You. I am your host, Charmaine O'Dane. This morning I have two dynamic ladies with me and I'll have them introduce themselves. We all know they're no stranger to the media, but they're here with us on business, an important business that involves our youths and our communities in St. Kitts and Nevis.
Sure. So good morning to everybody listening and viewing. This is the Honorable Iseline Phillip, Minister with Responsibility for Social Development, Gender Affairs, Youth Empowerment, Aging and Disabilities. And I think I'm also here in my capacity as the co-chair for Citizen Security Advisory Council out of the Prime Minister's office.
Good morning, Radio Land. This is Eartha Carey, and I am the Force Personnel Officer and also acting in the capacity as the coordinator for the Citizen Security Secretariat.
Thank you so much, ladies. Can you briefly explain to the listening and viewing audience what is citizen security and its role in crime prevention?
So when we talk about citizen security, we would have heard Sergeant O'Dane, we would have heard the Prime Minister talk about this term and mention this term a few times in his presentations, particularly when we're talking about the efforts to fight crime and violence in the long term. So really, citizen security is actually a concept and a term that is introduced by the United Nations, where it's really seeking to identify ways where all of community and all of society take an active role to be able to create safe and peaceful coexistence. So it's the difference between, citizen security and national security is really that for citizen security, we're really pushing it from a community-based level to be able to engage all of society, for individuals to take responsibility as well as for collective responsibility to be taken. And citizen security is intended to run in partnership and in parallel with the efforts of national security, which is, crime and justice related focus. And so, we push citizen security because we're really seeking to establish partnerships and community engagement, community involvement, and individual and civic responsibility for our safety and security and peace and nation building.
Thank you so much for that. Okay, I'm going to piggyback a bit. We heard about the 90 days campaign against crime and violence from a public health perspective. What were some of the key goals of the 90 days campaign? And do you think that you achieved these goals? Just to go back to for those who might not have known, to just let them know.
Sure. So the 90-day campaign against crime and violence was something that was launched in 2024, October 2024, for 90 days. And that was started at the time when we were having all of these increases in homicides, gun crime specifically. And it was a time when the Prime Minister convened stakeholder engagement where we had persons from all political parties, all sectors come together and commit to recognizing, at least acknowledging, the issue of violence and crime as not necessarily a government problem, but an all of society problem. And the campaign was really intended to start the awareness building and the consciousness raising around thinking about crime and violence from a public health perspective, which requires an all of society approach. Again, similar to how we had to combat COVID. It's really thinking about the problem and issue of violence and crime, thinking about it as a disease, and calling to action all of community to be able to take the necessary action in order for us to shift the behavior and change the norms. And so the campaign was really intended to engage communities. We would have held a series of consultations, which Ms. Carey can speak more specifically to. She was very instrumental in that. And we were able to kind of push a certain, the anti-crime and violence sentiment and get communities involved by telling us what they think the issues are, particularly that are specific to their communities, and highlighting what they think ought to be some of the solutions and next steps for us to really approach this problem from a long-term solution perspective. You asked if we were successful in terms of what the campaign achieved. I would say yes. The Prime Minister would have mentioned, as well as the High Command from the police force would have noted, that we actually did have a reduction in the number of homicides that were occurring. And so I think the level of consciousness raising and awareness building in our communities among people certainly increased the level of vigilance, and certainly helped as a deterrent to persons who are involved in these dynamics. And it certainly worked in tandem with the work that national security was doing to ensure that our streets and our communities were safe. So yes, I'd say it has been successful, and we look forward to what the next steps are going to be.
Awesome. Okay, so with all that said, the 90 days is over. So the post-90 days strategies. What strategies are being implemented to maintain and strengthen crime reduction?
Okay. Just to go back a little bit, I would first say that, the main reason for the 90-day campaign was really to find what the grassroots currently affecting society. It's just like you have a sore. Instead of putting the plaster on the sore, you first have to clean the wound, right, and find the best way so that wound can heal properly. So it was really to go into the communities and to find out what are the situations, issues that are affecting the behavior among our youths in the communities. And with that, we were able to find solutions to contribute to the root causes of crime and violence. And in saying that, we had to look at it and approach it from a more holistic approach versus looking at it from just the crime. When we hear about crime, we automatically think about gun or the stabbing, but we don't stop to think about other things that can be contributing to the reasons for these behaviors. So, saying what you say, ask the strategies that are being put in place. Now, everything is about data for me. If you don't have numbers, if you don't have information, how can you solve whatever it is? So the strategies put in place, it will be based from the data that we were able to collect. And some of what we would have collected, it stems from home. So what can we do to help the families? Some of it also stems from depressions for some. And again, these are information received from the data when we did the community engagement. So it's merely about what they said to us, and we finding the strategies. Now, we already have existing programs, we already have existing mechanisms in place, but it's all about pushing information. It's all about awareness. And real and truly, persons doesn't know of some of these resources that we have available. So what we plan to do is make available, bring further awareness to these resources that we currently have, and of course we add on to what we have so we can make a dynamic impact in solving all of these issues.
Oh, thank you so much. What is the most effective method used during the campaign, and how will they be integrated in long-term crime fighting strategies?
Again, it will go back to the same thing, the interaction with persons. It has to be a relationship. Building relationships, strong relationships, we get what we are looking for. And once we build that relationship, out of that will come issues that we didn't even know about, right? So it will go back to the making everyone inclusive, bringing everyone on board to see that we have these things and how we can do it together from a holistic approach.
Okay, thank you so much. Are there any new partnership or programs being developed as follow-up to this campaign? It's basically what's next. Right. What's the next step?
So to speak to that, we would have actually heard from the Prime Minister's recent roundtable. He would have mentioned that, of course, as a follow-up, we are thinking about what comes beyond the 90 days. As Ms. Carey would have mentioned, we're really looking at the data that was collected throughout the course of the campaign, where we collect a lot of information and data pointing to significant kind of community-based problem, relational things, and we want to be able to continue that engagement with the community, go back into the communities to respond to some of these things, and on a national level, we obviously also want to drive some of this change and continue with the awareness building, and we want to be consistent in those efforts. One of the biggest things that came out was people were saying, we've had a lot of things that started, but then they just kind of fell off and they kind of stopped, like whether it be clubs, groups, projects. And so we recognize we need to have a consistent effort, and that's what, the Prime Minister says all of the time in terms we have to be consistent in our efforts, not because we see a little reduction right now means that we can
Right.
stop our efforts. We do need to be consistent. And so one of the things that's most immediate that we are working on, you asked about new partnerships. Of course, we recognize we want to target our children and young people. And so the Ministry of Education is one of our major partners for our next activity, which is intended to be what PM terms a day of interruption. And this is essentially a day where the Ministry of Education and all of the principals and schools in both primary and secondary have committed to hosting a special assembly on the same day, and that day will be next week, Wednesday, February 26th. And they'll be hosting a special assembly with the theme and focus being anti-crime and violence, promoting peace and security, togetherness, community development. And so this is intended to, be, like I said, a day of interruption where we all go into the school and we start to shift and change the hearts and minds of the young people and remind them that there are better opportunities, there are more positive alternatives to violence and crime, and this is what we are pushing for as one of the things. So the partnership with education, we believe, is extremely key because, of course, from the consultations, as Ms. Carey said, we recognize, a lot of youth and young people are being impacted
Right.
in ways not just by, what we're seeing in the gun crime on the streets, but just by very, my issues that are happening in the home, in the community, in our schools. And so we really want to be able to create a lot safer spaces for our young people and engage them more positively. So this day is intended to launch and drive certain initiatives so that we can start in the schools and have that thematic focus throughout the year.
Thank you so much.
In addition to that, too, I would also add that there are a lot of social agents that are willing to come on board. Some of them, they are willing to speak to the youth. Some of them are also looking at having classes or anything that's going to be beneficial to their growth and, change their mindset. And, if I could speak on the women empowerment side of it, there are persons out there who are willing to work with young girls, and there are also persons out there who are willing to work with boys. So nobody gets left out, right? So there are a lot of persons, stakeholders that are willing to come on board to share their expertise and to look at areas that are really affecting the youths. Now, in saying that, it will definitely have to be a relationship that will be built between the social agents and families, because at the end of the day, some of these children, they're going to be underage. So we also have to look at building relationship with the home, with the families. So if they are willing to do that, I will say it's an A for me, right? So yes, we are building other relationships outside of the government sector. We are building relations with the private sectors also, and those young upcoming entrepreneurs, they're also on board in building.
Wow, I'm not a school child, but I'm excited. Awesome. I think you guys are doing an awesome job. And yes, I agree that one of our targets going forward must be our youths. They must be impacted because they are our future.
Yes, they are our future leaders, yes.
Yes, definitely. I am as excited I am. How are the police and other law enforcement agency working with this initiative to sustain this impact?
I will first answer, then I'm going to put it back to you. Okay. Okay. The police have been working diligently. We get, we're not working enough, but we are doing the work. And again, it comes down to awareness. It comes down to persons knowing what the police are doing. We are definitely working. We are in the communities already. We are in the schools because we have the liaison officers, and we have Sergeant O'Dane, who's very instrumental in the communities with her team, right? So we are doing our part, and again, it's a partnership. The police cannot solve crime by ourselves. We cannot. It's a relationship, and we're going to have to reiterate it. We cannot do it alone. It takes a whole. And I would say, yes, I'm getting passionate. We are doing our work. We are doing our part. Okay, so, and I'm pretty sure that you can also elaborate on the National Intervention Team and how you are working very close with the youths. So definitely, police are working.
Yes.
We are policing.
Yes, we are. We're definitely out there in our numbers.
Yes.
The National Intervention Team is doing a lot when it comes to our youth. We have our clubs in the different communities. We have school presentation. We just I put in the horse before the cat, or the cat before the horse. It should be announced shortly that we have reinstated the teens and police services program in the high school. Officers are out there as we speak making presentation at Bass High School. You'll see it shortly on the social media. We have our upcoming Easter camp. This is our second anniversary doing our Easter camp as a team. So we're out there. We're also dealing with families, trying to see how best we can use intervention as one of the proactive measures in getting our youths on the right path. I'm always excited when it comes to anything with our youths and our elderlies. So yes, the police is really out there partnering and doing as much as we can, even though the public sometimes would feel as if we're not doing enough.
You know, as recent as last week, the High Command and other gazetted officers, we were in the Sandy Point area. Before that, we were in the McKnight area again. And the communities, they welcomed the team, you know. They said, man, come out some more, do more of this. And, of course, we got our constructive criticism that we take back, and we just have to build on what they say, because they are the ones that are crying out. We are the ones that are listening. We are not there every day, all day. So when they talk, we listen. So we go in. We have to go. We can't stay from behind the desk all the time. And I would say that the police, they are definitely out in these communities doing their part.
And without constructive criticism, we can't
How can we grow?
Right.
How can we
Absolutely.
grow? Exactly.
Yes.
Right.
And I just want to be able to add to that, especially because, you know, it's important, I think, for us to commend the work that the police and that's happening with national security, particularly since, you know, Prime Minister is a Minister of National Security, and how it connects with the new approach to crime fighting and violence. Because I think the new strategies that are putting in place to expand community policing is the attempt to be able to soften policing, to be able to connect and build those relationships. Because of course, and I think the onus then becomes on individuals as well. We obviously want to be able to improve people who have trust in the police to be able to report crimes when they see it. And, you know, of course, I think it's important, that approach, to be able to build those relationships. And so I think this is kudos to obviously the vision of the minister and, you know, the High Command in terms of recognizing that we do have to get back into the communities and for actually doing the work. We do see them out there, and I think they ought to definitely be commended.
Definitely. Thank you so much for that. Yes, so we're going to pause and we're going to pay some bills, and when we come back, we're going to take some calls. So you can call in and give your support, give your criticism. We're here to build on things. Thank you so much, DQ.
Get value you'll love only at Quartz. With huge savings on select mattresses, mobile phones, and TVs. You'll also love our new arrivals in furniture and appliances. Plus, when you shop, get a chance to win great prizes. So come in, shop today, and pay later with Quartz Ready Finance. Get value you'll love only at Quartz. Bringing value home. Offer ends February 24, 2025. See store for details.
Kickstart the new year with great deals and massive savings. Get up to 25% off store-wide for this year, 2025, at Smart and Island Electronics. Get your hands on the latest gadgets, electronics, and appliances such as smartphones, TVs, washing machines, stoves, refrigerators, and much more. Shop now and see big at Smart Electronics Sports Sunday, Island Electronics Sports Street, and Smart Electronics opposite Value Mart in Charlestown, Nevis. Be smart, shop Smart Electronics and see big. Terms and conditions apply. See in stores for details.
Good morning once again to everyone, and welcome back to Policing with You. I am your host, Charmaine O'Dane. With me, I have Honorable Miss Phillip and Miss Carey, who is in multiple tasks here this morning with us. And we're basically talking about the extraordinary assembly that is about to happen on the 26th of February. We just went through a little bit of updating you about the 90 days campaign, and now we are going into what is next. We are very anxious to hear your views on it, so we're asking callers to just basically stick to the point, stick to the focus on what we are doing, and support us as we go forward. Yes, the upcoming extraordinary assembly in all the schools will feature positive influences. What is the main goal of this initiative?
So one of the main goals of this initiative is essentially, again, to continue the consciousness raising and awareness building and to spread the message of citizen security, which obviously, like I said, is to ensure that we instill a sense of personal, individual, and collective responsibility for all of us to create a peaceful and safe coexistence in St. Kitts and Nevis. And so we intend to go into the schools to be able to, launch essentially a campaign that can be taken throughout the rest of the year, that can be continued and carried over from what we would have started during the 90-day campaign. And it's intended to get our young people and our children involved, our education institutions leading the way and leading the charge in terms of pushing the message around safety and security and condemning all forms of violence. And so on this one day, Ministry of Education, through all of the schools, both primary and secondary, have committed to hosting a special assembly that, it will be a program that focuses on different presentations, whether it be poem, dance, spoken word, to be able to, around the theme of peace, security, anti-violence, and crime. And part of that, we've also been soliciting and seeking volunteers from the community to also join in these assemblies at schools in your community to offer out some words of motivation or inspiration to the students that can be engaging. And so the schools are very open, and through the Secretariat, we've actually sent out some invitations to various sectors, non-governmental, to community leaders and influencers who have participated in former engagements, who would be willing and interested to join in as volunteers to go into the schools to offer these words and motivational and aspirational talks, because we're really seeking for this also to be an all of society activity to engage persons from the public as well. So that call is there. We are certainly still soliciting volunteers. We have about 26 schools that we need covered for this one day on the 26th of February. And so anybody out there who would be interested in participating, please know that you can reach out to the Secretariat, because we are certainly taking volunteers if you'd be interested in talking to our young people during one of these assemblies. There is space for you on the program, and we are certainly open and welcome to that.
Yes, it is very important to show our youths that success and positive choices are possible for everyone.
Absolutely.
Yes, and empowering them, exposing them to these positive role models is also very good, because they know, then they learn different ways of how to overcome challenges. That you show that even though I'm a positive influencer, I went through challenges and this is my outcome, this is me, so yes. So how do you believe engaging our youth in school would impact crime prevention? We know that most crimes are, many crimes starts with our youths. So feeling hopeless or lacking direction. How do you feel that engaging them would prevent crime?
Sure. Do you want me to take that, Ms. Kim? Okay. So I like that you said how it will impact crime prevention, because obviously our young people are at a stage where they're most malleable to influences, and so we want to make sure that we capture our young people at this very tender age where I believe all children are at risk. There are some children who are more at risk than others, and so as a society, as adults in society, we need to be very conscious of this reality. And so we need to be conscious of where our children are, what they're doing, what they're consuming, not just, I don't just mean in terms of food, but also in terms of social media, in terms of the environments that they engage in, because we need to be able to show them that there are better opportunities and what their choices and the consequences of certain choices actually create. And so if we can actually be able to hold our youth, grab our youth at a time to make sure that they engage positively, to help them recognize that investing their time in more positive areas, in making sure that they associate with more positive environments, that has more positive outcomes in the long run, then we will have a society where we have leaders and we have a bright future. It's important for us to grab them when they're early, because that's where the prevention time, that's where we have the opportunity to rehabilitate those who may possibly have already shown signs of delinquent behaviors. And it's also a time to make sure we grab those so that they don't fall into those patterns as well. And so, because obviously youth is the age where you're developing, you're learning, you're just kind of getting out into the world and knowing these things, this is the time where we want to be able to make sure that we engage them and tell them, this is the consequence for doing this versus doing this, and these are the opportunities. And some youth need more help than others, right. So we also need to be in a position to be able to support those who need more support, because not everybody is privileged enough to come from happy, healthy, trauma-free homes, and that's just the reality of our society today. So we need to create those safe spaces.
Yes, and if I may add a little bit more to that, and put it another way, so to speak, think about, we have the fertile land, right? And our youths, they are the seeds, right? Who fertilizes them, right? We have the fertile land, we have the youths, and they are very creative. And believe it or not, they look up to each other in some way. They piggyback off of each other some way. So they influence each other,
yes.
Right? So they can also impact what is going on positively. In the school, it starts in the school, it starts at home, it starts everywhere, if you may put it that way, right? But it's just about nurturing, planting, and look after. And in saying that also, we as the adult, we as social agents, we also have to follow up with them to keep them on the right path. Nobody is perfect, and they're youth, they're children, so to speak, right? So once we keep that fertile land fertile by utilizing who we have, because we have the creative minds of these youth, right? So once we do that, we are definitely looking for a bigger impact in the communities.
Awesome. Prevention is just as important as enforcement.
Correct.
Absolutely.
Right. You spoke about positive influences. What type of positive influencer will be speaking, and what the message do you hope for them to deliver?
Oh, well, the message to deliver is that it is okay to fail, because we don't want them to think that they have to start at the high and then think. It's okay to fail. So the message with the influencer that we're looking at, you make a mistake, we're here to help you. We're here to get back on the right track. So therefore, I would just say the influencers that we are looking at is like persons who have been through something and they are now leading a positive life. Those are persons we're looking at. We're looking at stakeholders in the Christian area, looking at other persons who has been way ahead, and they have faltered somewhere, but they managed to come back up. Again, we learn as we grow, and if we don't have experiences, life experience, realistic experiences, how can we grow? We're not just looking at persons who, as we would say, has the silver spoon. We're looking at a mixture of everybody, because if we're going to keep to the theme holistic, then we have to involve persons who can positively impact. We have to look at persons who have been there and now turn a page that can also teach our youths.
Thank you so much for that. Are there plans to make school-based crime prevention initiative a long-term program?
Of course.
Consistency.
Yes, of course. And these are conversations that actually take place in the Citizen Security Advisory Council, when we're talking about where that's really the place where different stakeholders are brought to the table. We have representation from different ministries, including education, social development, national security, as well as persons from the private sector, the chamber, UN agencies, faith-based organizations. And so we put our brains together to kind of see what interventions we really need to be able to be established, not just in government, but also to inspire the community and non-governmental agencies. So some of the things that I think we recognize is that there are programs that have been started that stopped, programs that were successful at the time when they were working that stopped, and for whatever reason they would have fallen off. And so there has been conversation and discussion around resurrecting some of these things. For instance, the TAPS that you mentioned is one of those things. That was a program that was there previously, and then it faltered for a little while, and so now we're reintroducing this program. Sports getting back into the schools. So we know sports would have stopped for a while, especially after COVID, but we see that sports is now back into all of our primary and secondary schools. Sports in its variety, netball, football, we're seeing tennis, track and field, and so these are things that we are seeking to make sure we reestablish, seeking to make sure that we institutionalize, because these are certainly avenues and prevention initiatives that have been proven and demonstrated to be impactful in making sure that our young people engage on a positive track and stay that course. And of course, we seek to identify greater opportunities. So I can say, particularly from the Ministry of Youth, volunteerism is something that we're working on increasing again. Volunteerism is something that we've seen come down on a decline, and just youth engagement in community groups and organizations has been on a decline. And so that's one of the things that we're seeking to, again, reinvigorate, seeing how we can find ways to bring back volunteerism, to make it some sort of mandatory way, maybe through education curriculum. And so these are discussions that are being had. But of course, we're making gains in certain areas. Sports is one, bringing back programs like TAPS, the MAGIC program, which is about drug prevention. And so things are happening slowly in small pockets and areas, even though they may not be publicized. Just want the public to know that the government is working, the sectors are working, and we're all in this together. So it's a word of encouragement, because we also want, even for our communities, a number of groups would have faded and died off. We want to be able to encourage those groups to even resurrect themselves, because there is a need. There is a need for more community-based groups and community-based engagements.
Definitely. This is basically all hands-on approach. So if you're not on board, get on board.
Please.
This will ensure that our youths receive continuous guidance and support. How can the public, and we just ask, play a role in sustaining the effort of the 90 days campaign, or after the 90 days campaign?
Beyond the 90 days.
Beyond the 90 days. Thank you so much. How can the public and community members, we just ask them to come on board, play a role in sustaining the effort of the Beyond the 90 days campaign?
I would say consistency. I would like to say, let's start with consistency. And with consistency, show up. And when you show up, bring the ideas. Share the ideas. We cannot do it alone. They are, like I mentioned earlier, youths are creative and other persons are creative. So playing a role to sustain it, we have to come up with realistic mechanism that we can keep it going. We may not jump off immediately, because it takes time to, whether we're going to bring back something that is already there. It's going to also take time to implement things that are new. So when you are coming on board, we're just asking you to come with an open mind, and take nothing personal, right? Take nothing personal, because it's not for individuals, ourselves per se. It's for the whole federation. We're looking at the key factor here, which are the youths, community engagement, community restoration, and all those sort of stuff. We are building a nation, we are building leaders. So with coming on board with those things in mind, you're going to also have to, and of course for it to be sustainable, you're going to have to come with open mind and be willing to share thoughts, receive any criticism. All those have to come, and you're going to play a factor.
Yes. And I would like to also add, when we think about citizen security, like I would have mentioned, we're really pushing and encouraging for, an individual, it's like individual and collective responsibility. If we really want to change behavior and change attitudes around violence and crime, we have to also take some personal responsibility and think about how we're also complicit in contributing to this culture of aggression and this culture of violence that we see. So I always say, we really have to go back to the basics of, just the fruits of the spirit. Let's be kinder to each other. Gone are the days where we tell each other good morning, good afternoon, how you do, and I think these are the attitudes that need to change in the long term, because we talk about engaging our young people, but we can't just focus on engaging them by still being being bad examples. We also, as adults, need to take responsibility to be those examples that we're trying to encourage our young people to become. We have to be it in order for them to also change. And so I just want to encourage us, as community persons, as individuals, as collectives, also take your own responsibility. There's a civic responsibility we all have to play in terms of making sure that we take care of each other, we take care of ourselves, and just become better people, become better citizens, where we really take safety, security, peace, togetherness seriously. And we have to demonstrate that in our behaviors. It sounds cliche and it sounds simple, but the truth is, if we want to be peaceful, we have to become peaceful people. We have to become peaceful people, and not just count on, police and the justice system to force us to do that. We have to choose it for ourselves. So I always want to make sure we make that plug that we all have an individual responsibility to play. There's small things we can do in just our everyday behavior that can help with building that kind of culture and society.
Awesome. Yes, fostering a culture of peace and accountability is very important.
Yes.
What resources or support system are available for at-risk youths to prevent them from being drawn into crime?
What resources and systems are available? Well, through the government system, of course, we have the traditional frameworks. We have the ministries that are responsible for programming, and of course I can speak to that. We have the Department of Youth Empowerment that seeks to deliver programming for young people. We know through Summer Camp is one of our flagship programs, where we have 2 weeks where we bring young people together on camp to learn different skills, to engage them in positive activity, expose them to new things. And of course throughout the year, there's always opportunities where we try to award young people for doing positive things, because I think in addition to calling out the bad, we also need to highlight what's happening that's positive. And so we take a concerted effort to do that, to go into the schools. Through the Department of Gender Affairs, there's programming for girls, there's programming for boys. There are resources, of course, through the Department of Probation and Child Protection Services that focuses on protecting the interest of the child and seeks to deliver programming to make sure that children who have been traumatized in some way or another have support systems and networks. And, so these are things that are established. We know through different areas in the government that, and of course education plays a major role through the education system. And so these are resources that are available through the public, through the government. But of course we always seek to be able to have non-governmental agencies to show up to also support. So we know there are church ministries that also do a lot. We know there are things like the Rotaract, the Rotary, Girls Guides, Boy Scouts, Cadets, and these are things and resources that we know already exist to support and help at-risk youth.
Okay, we have a call.
Oh, we do.
Good.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's okay. Oh, I didn't miss.
Okay, we're gonna basically wrap up now. We've heard your cry.
Before you wrap up, let's try again.
Yes, okay, let's.
Good morning, you're live. Go ahead.
Oh, good morning. I'm trying to find out how could we get in touch with the part of that program for next week, 26.
You can contact 664-6002, or you can send an email, citizensecurity.gov.kn.
So,
Can you repeat the number again, please?
664-6002, or email citizen.security@gov.kn.
Okay, thank you, caller. Thank you. So we have a next caller. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Yes, good morning, police in Fualo. GQ, you catch me off guard and the host did. I didn't realize that you all opened the line until the guy called and asked for the number. Miss Trills, a young lady was just there talking, and she was making the point that you got to be consistent, because the whole of think it's not me. And I know the one was speaking about, she was talking about the new wave of violence and youth, the youth, them, how they're behaving in St. That is new to even me, who held on a lot of them. And a warning, and a warning police. Let me get this thing going. This thing now used to happening in St. The next thing I'm watching, we looking at night where immigrants who get the opportunity to come here to make a living, to better themselves. They're bringing the gangster business on here. And we're going to tolerate that, And I'm calling on my friend Wussy to help me and others camp out that. If anybody to mash up St. Kitts, it got to be we. What I seen and this, I want her to come down present and talk to me too, And let me try a lot of things were going on. Because if Robert Bratcher was around, Kennedy Simmons was around, these things could happen. These young men failing us big time. And the sight is called fear of favor. Right in the face, they will hear me. Something is wrong. We're getting a new wave of gangsters coming from everyone. We got to nurture them, we got to be, but once they come in the gangster business, they should be where they got to be, where they're supposed to be. Please, let me get this thing going. Have a good morning. This jam don't talking, Ban petition, I mean, I know real. I got that, you right there.
Thank you, caller. Okay, we're about to wrap up now, so I'm going to end with this. What message would you like to share with the nation as we move forward?
I'm going to stick to reality, if I may be transparent. Nothing happens overnight, and I'm going to stick to the word again, consistency. Transparency is what we're going to try to do, because if we're not transparent, we cannot get the goal accomplished. And the additional message that I want to leave with the Federation, please reach out. We are not intentionally leaving out anyone, so please reach out. I gave the number earlier and the email. Just reach out, share your ideas, share your thoughts. And if you see something that needs to be addressed, please say something. That's what I want to leave.
And for that, I would say we have to all be in this together. We have to be in it together and be in it together consistently. This is an all of society effort. And, as Pam always likes to say, it will work. It will work if we really choose to commit to it together and to be consistent with it. And so we really want to make a real call to action for members of the public. Like I said, if you're not even involved in something formal, like a formal group or formal efforts, there are things that you can do as an individual to help us to create safe and peaceful coexistence. And so I want to leave that with all of us, that we all have to, if we really want to have crime-free St. Kitts and Nevis, we all have to put our hands on deck and we all need to play our parts. This is an individual and collective responsibility for us to achieve citizen security.
And also, to add one more thing, change start with the person in the mirror. Change start with you. And imagine if we put all those mirrors together, what we can accomplish.
Thank you so much. I have listened. This campaign shows us that when we work together, law enforcement, communities, non-government, government, we can make a real impact. The fight against crime is just not a police issue. It's not just a police issue, it's a community issue. Moving forward, we stay committed, stay vigilant, and continue to work together to build safer environments for not only our youth, our visitors, but ourselves.
That's right.
And thank you so much for listening. I am your host, Shaman Odain. Thank you very much, GQ and the staff at ZIZ. Thank you, the listening and viewing audience. See you next week.
Let us unite as one. Let us unite as one. Tell me what you know about love. Tell me what you know about hate that keeps us separate.